On the hills that I'm walking on now are the remains of one of the least known about and little understood archaeological sites in Turkey, where two rivers converge, creating an oasis in this otherwise barren limestone landscape. It's a place that has seen habitation since the Chalcolithic period and has seen the rise and fall of the Romans, Greeks, and countless other civilizations that have once called this place their home. My name is Milo Rossi, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sogmatar.
Like the rest of the Anatolia region, the area around Sogmatar is composed of limestone. What is today bedrock was originally a shallow sea and island arc complex. However, the closure of the Paleotethys and Neotethys Ocean about 230 million years ago caused this region to be uplifted. On a grander scale, this small region of the world is part of the Alpine Himalayan orogenic belt, a mountain chain that stretches nearly 9,500 miles from the Alps to the Himalayas. But the ancient limestone that forms the foundation of Sogmatar has proved to be a blank canvas for every civilization that has inhabited it.
So, during Roman occupation, when they built their various temples to the gods on the surrounding hills, you can actually see some of the temples from here. There's one right there. If you follow the hills to the right, you can see another one on the top over there, and another one even farther in that direction. And if you continue, there's another one up there. It's pretty much every hilltop you look at has a different temple on it. This temple right here, you can see with all of the collapsed stones, is the temple to Jupiter. Now, because they still haven't done a full archaeological investigation of this site, the true dedications of all of these temples could be argued that it's up for debate, but the locals tell which of the temples was dedicated to what god, and frankly, considering they've, been living here since then, I would say that they probably know better than anyone. But there's actually a little bit more evidence to support that that is the temple of Jupiter, as there is a story that the temple to Jupiter at Sogmatar was collapsed in an earthquake in the 6th century BCE, and considering that that is the most collapsed of all of the temples, it's more than likely that that was actually the one that was dedicated to Jupiter. When the Romans occupied this site, they actually ended up using it for a very similar purpose that it had been used for countless years beforehand. The Mesopotamians before them had used this site for celestial worship, and the Romans did something very similar. In fact, they actually built 6 different temples in the surrounding hillside, which has given the area its name, the town of the 7 temples. Now, you may be wondering, well, where is the 7th temple? The 7th temple is none other than this very unusual-looking hill structure in the middle of the village. The jury is still out on what it actually is. Some speculate that it is a man-made artificial mound, while some have gone so far as to state that it is a ziggurat. While it is unlikely, in my opinion, that it's a ziggurat due to it being built so far away from many of the ziggurat-building civilizations of the Mesopotamian, it is more than likely, in my opinion, that this is some sort of man-made structure.
This hill was truly one of the most fascinating features of being at Sogmatar. While little is known about its origin and its creators, I think it has the potential to be absolutely ancient. Archaeological evidence has proven that this area has been the home of some of the oldest civilizations on Earth, and sites like Karahan Tepe, which we'll visit later in this series, are located just 5 miles away. To me, there is not a shadow of a doubt in my mind that civilizations much older than the Romans and Mesopotamians once inhabited this valley, and standing atop the hillsides and seeing the canyons carved by rivers which no longer flow lended a little piece of the history that this area once experienced. Not a series of rocky, brush-covered hills, but a fertile valley that the Tas-Tepler people who built Göbekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe would have been attracted to. While archaeological fieldwork has just begun at this site, I'm hoping to be able to return in the next few years in order to see what sorts of things they have uncovered, as I do truly believe that the most groundbreaking discoveries in archaeology in our generation will be coming from this part of the world.
Again, the significance of this site at the confluence of these 2 rivers would have made this a major strategic location, and with the defensible hills on both sides that have evidence of human habitation for thousands of years, it would only make sense that this would make a perfect place to build a, fortification and settlement. And you can tell already by just sort of looking at it that it looks so much different than the land around it with these sort of banding limestone hills. This structure is more, brown, looking kind of more like it was, stacked rocks on top of one another instead of just a naturally occurring feature. However, archaeology at this site is still in its infancy, with one very small test pit dug on the other side there. You may actually be able to see a little strip of it bit over the trees.
The central hill of Sogmatar has been subject to many archaeological misconceptions. Due to the fact that it remains nearly completely unexcavated, it has allowed those with little understanding of the field to be able to preach whatever they want about it. Everything from it being a Mesopotamian ziggurat to it being the evidence of a lost Atlantean civilization. But one thing remains certain, and that is that little is known about the construction at the center of Sogmatar. And this opens the door for those simply looking to garner attention for their conspiracies and outlandish theories to use it as a tool against you. For this reason, it is important to remain skeptical about sites like this, and anyone who tries to tell you definitively what these sites may hold has no idea what they're talking about.
The Romans did what they did best when they came here, and they actually ended up repurposing a lot of the Mesopotamian pieces of stone to build their temples and burial structures. Since the Mesopotamians used this place as a necropolis, the Romans ended up doing the same, not only building their own necropolises out of the stone that was mined and quarried by the Mesopotamians, but actually improving on some of the Mesopotamian graves and turning them into more Roman-style burial chambers. All right, we found a mysterious hole in the ground, and so obviously we need to go into it. Fuck me, it's dark in here. Whoa. Fuck. I can't see a goddamn thing. I bet you I'm surrounded by skeletons, a la Indiana Jones. They're all gonna fall down. Oh yeah, these are definitely burial shelves.
Really?
I'm a motherfucking Tomb Raider, baby! Wow.
We have fun.
Dude! Oh my god, this is like a childhood dream come true.
I thought the airplane would be the worst part of being tall here.
Well, I can't see literally anything. Oh, fucking god, there's a big hole on the right. Fuck. That's nice.
Definitely.
Holy shit.
That's some burial shells over here.
Yeah, really. That is exactly what this is. All of them have a little indent by where the head would be. Oh my god, that's all about it.
Let me get a picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's me again, that guy. You might be thinking, whoa, Milo, you're already making a video. What are you doing in here a second time? Well, that's because I'm here to do the thing that I did last time, which is sell you my book. Because yeah, I wrote a book. It's called The Encyclopedia of the Weird and Wonderful, and it is available for pre-order now. So if you like what I do here, you like archaeology, history, humanity, all that fun stuff, well, then you're gonna love this book. The Encyclopedia of the Weird and Wonderful contains over 100 entries talking about the history of humankind and all of our distant ancestors. The Encyclopedia of the Weird and Wonderful is a collection of over 100 anecdotes, fun facts, and short stories talking about human history. Talking about everything from shipwreck champagne to extracting dye out of a snail's ass. Jesus. Now, the Encyclopedia of the Weird and Wonderful has a kind of unique structure and format that I wanted to try out because it's my book and I could do whatever the hell I wanted, but I'm not going to bore you with that here. So if you'd like to learn more about it, you can check out the video where I announced the book in the description, or right here if I remember to do a card, which I won't. I'm not going to, do you think I'm going to remember to put the card in here? Of course I'm not putting a card in here. Look, there's no card. Or it's going to be even funnier, actually, if I remember to do it. The Encyclopedia of the Weird and Wonderful is available for pre-order now on Amazon with the release date being October 3rd. So you can click that link in the description down below. I'd like to give a massive thank you to myself for sponsoring this video, and now, let's get right back into it.
Now, a lot of the stone that was used to build these structures was actually mined very locally, about as locally as you can possibly get, as in literally right there. Yeah, look, they have this nice flared, like, edge here. It's interesting looking at this and, you know, standing in Turkey, when you think Roman architecture, you think, you know, Rome. But, you know, we're standing here near the border with Syria, and you're looking at a very Roman piece of construction.
Yeah, you didn't look down here.
I didn't.
There's another, probably tomb.
Yeah. And if you will follow me inside, let's see if we can get some light in here. No, apparently not. Wow, it's dark. You will see that it's crazy dark. Actually, that thing's probably doing better than my phone is. But this sort of necropolis structure is indicative of the other structures that we see around this area. So you have these burial plinths on the side right here, and some of them actually have an altar in the back. We may see some of those later. But the altars were completed with small little fluting in it that would drain the blood of sacrificed animals that would have been seen as, you know, an offering when people were laid to rest in these tombs. Wow. It's kind of wild to just be like walking through here and realizing that I'm standing inside of, you know, a 4,000-year-old tomb potentially. And this is far from the only one. There are countless more that litter this site. All right, back out into the land of the living. Oh, look at this. On the topic of Roman, architectural styling, you can actually see the top of sort of a pillar structure right here with this very detailed sort of step carving and these little, decoration pieces on the side. There's another one over here. That's one of these. These are just lying like all around the hillside. There's more of them over there. There's some sort of little water bowl over here.
There's the dog dish.
Yeah, really. And you're going to notice a running theme as we move through this site, and that is a theme of water. That is what made this site so popular for thousands of years of human habitation, is the fact that it is located at a confluence of two now dry riverbeds, but for much of human history they would have been flowing and provided life to this area. In fact, it's actually rumored that Moses himself settled in Sogmatar, and while he was here, he dug a well which can still be seen at this site and is actually used by the villagers to this day. I'm looking for Moses's well. Is that way? Okay, he says it's this way. So even here, you're walking through, a small stream bed that would have once connected to one of these major rivers. And right here, you can see, one of these troughs that was carved out of the limestone itself, probably used for feeding the livestock that would have been in this area for thousands of years. Yeah, here's a well. Try not to fall down there and die. So you can imagine how the people would have carved this into the ground, pulled the water out and used it to fill these troughs that still sit here to this day and are honestly probably still in use to some extent. And what's even more amazing to me is if you look down there on the side, you can actually see these long striations on the limestone that are the remains of where the ropes would have been pulled up and down repeatedly over hundreds of years, leaving this scarring in the rock. Well, today it has a modern pumping station on top of it. This is the well which was allegedly built by none other than Moses himself. Wow. It's interesting looking into this and trying to, imagine the history behind it. Whether or not it was carved by Moses, we may never know. But one thing is for sure, and that is that many people who believe it was find this to be a sacred site, and that is something which cannot be argued with. And so sitting here, you do feel kind of this sense of power that this place has, of just such a ancient history and one that is steeped in so much culture that I can barely be able to comprehend it. There's a fig tree growing in it, which is, I think, kind of poetic. There's something kind of nice about that. That goes down far.
The most compelling piece about being at Sogmatar was the fact that it is still a living village. While it was easy to walk through the streets as an archaeologist and recognize all of these ancient pieces of construction lying at my feet, almost all of them were still in use. Wells carved thousands of years ago still produce water for the livestock that make up the area's major economy, and water and food troughs that may be equally as old are still used for the same things. It's amazing to not only see all of these constructions still in use, but to see them still being used for the same things that they would have been used for thousands of years, and to continue to sustain a village that in this day still relies heavily on agriculture and animal husbandry, as has been a staple in this environment since time immemorial.
Now, if you look over here, you'll see some of the necropolis, which are dug into the hillside over here, and these just litter the area. There's over 70 necropolis at Sogmatar, and many of them have been occupied and changed during Roman rule. However, archaeologists were able to find some of these tombs that were actually untouched by Roman occupation due to them being so buried that the Romans just never found them. And it's one of these tombs that we are going to go to now. Oh my god, look, get a shot of that. It's just amazing. Like, you just walk around here and it's just tomb after tomb. I wish I could film all of them, but there's just so many, I can't even do it.
In total, Sogmatar boasts 75 rock tombs. While a majority of these are located in the primary necropolis area, there are 3 which are outliers, being located at high points overlooking the valley. Of the 72 tombs that make up the necropolis, all of them are known as rock hollow tombs, and were likely all opened during the early Bronze Age. While 20 of these tombs were later improved and altered by the Romans, about 50 of them remain in their early Bronze Age appearance. It is unclear why these tombs survived the Roman occupation. While some may have been buried, they also just may have simply been overlooked, and the Roman influence is very apparent at the site, with 12 of the modified Roman tombs featuring classical Roman architecture. And of the 75 tombs at Sogmatar, there are 10 that remain unfinished, either partway through a renovation process by the Romans or never finished by their original creators in the Bronze Age.
What I find to be really funny about walking through a site like this is all of these structures around me, which in the grand scheme of things are pretty simplistic. Many of them are probably, ancient homes or, places to keep livestock. And even though they're fairly humble, in comparison to the land that we're around, these are brand new. And yet each one of them probably, is older than America by about 1,000 years. And so, even the walls of these simple structures around us are so ancient that I can barely comprehend it. And it's also amazing to think about what is actually being used to build these structures, because the tradition of reusing stones over and over again is one that humans have done since time immemorial. And so these are stones that could have been mined in the Chalcolithic period and then just continued to be used by the Mesopotamians and the Romans and finally turned into these homes about 1,000 years ago that we see today. As we walk down this street, you just see tomb after tomb just carved directly out of the bedrock to the side. And each one of them, I'm sure, has a story to tell. And, maybe we'll have to come back here with more time to be able to, go into every single one of them. Oh, God. And make sure that Henry doesn't fall into a hole and die. I think if we made it this far, we have to go into one of them. Wow. So this is another thing that you'll see in a lot of these burial structures is the black soot on the ceiling. They aren't entirely sure what was burned in these places, but many of them have this evidence of some sort of ash and soot that's been deposited on the ceiling. There's many of them have these sort of nooks and notches cut out into the wall where you would either display offerings, possibly candles, and this one doesn't have it. I'm trying to find one that does, but some of them have an altar which is carved directly out of the bedrock adjacent or directly across from the doorway.
While the area has seen nearly ceaseless human habitation for thousands of years, many of its artifacts have long since been scattered to the wind. However, archaeologists have been able to yield some very interesting pieces from several points in history. One of the most fascinating and compelling of these was a miniature toy chariot found inside one of the tombs. Archaeologists have dated it to around 2100 BCE, or nearly 4,000 years old. The chariot is a delicate and very human discovery as far as artifacts go, and gives us a brief window into how children played during the early Bronze Age. The small figure even has a pulling hole through which a rope would have been tied in order to pull the chariot along the ground. While frequently we think of artifacts as being spear points and bones, it's the small pieces like this that are the most compelling to me. Evidence that humanity has always been exactly the same for as long as we have existed.
How's Ramazan doing? Is he yelling at us yet?
Not yet.
Oh, let's
Good.
go. Amazing. Now, this is one of the most important places in Sogmatar. It's a place that is truly unlike any other of the locations here. Today we call this location Potens Cave, and not all that much is known about it due to the lack of research up until this point. But what we do know is that it has representation of these figures that line the walls. Some of them are believed to be guards, others believe them to be the physical representations of the planets, which is a theme that we see a lot with this area, as the early people that came here used this place as a location of celestial worship to the moon god Sin. Many of these deities and figures have actually been defaced in the time that this place has existed, with their faces being scratched off, and this one on this wall over here being so heavily defaced that it's actually almost a little bit of a shelf now. But the walls of this cave, if you come over here, you can see are scrawled with this Syriac language, which still exists to this day. And this is something which you will see all throughout this site, whether it be on rock outcroppings that line the hills surrounding it, or on the walls of the burial structures. Now, some believe that this location here would have held the representation of a god, and that the figures on either side would have acted as his protectors. Again, with little archaeological consensus on this site, it's fascinating to think what may be uncovered here and what conclusions may be able to be drawn. Now, it is interesting to note that a second cave and second compartment was actually carved out of the bedrock on the other side. And this site features a massive amount of soot on its ceiling, to the point where it is almost completely pitch black. And this is a large difference from the other cave, which still has a very light white limestone appearance. It's unclear whether or not this one was still in the process of creation, with something here that resembles a little bit of a human figure that either has been broken, defaced, or was never finished, but it clearly has a significantly lower level of detail than the more stunning cave to the other side.
I find Sogmatar to be one of the most intriguing and compelling archaeological sites that I have ever heard of. It's one that we just know so little about and yet is so expansive. As you walk through the hills here, you practically can't avoid stepping on something ancient. And because of that, I am just curious as to what is going to be found here in the upcoming years. As the archaeological world begins to turn its sights more and more to this region of Turkey, which has shown human habitation for tens of thousands of years, I can't help but imagine that this is going to be a place where the field of archaeology is going to be challenged and changed forever. And so I'm hoping to be able to come back here and tell a story that is ever-changing, one where archaeologists are yearning to learn more and willing to change their beliefs and expectations based on the discoveries that are made at sites like this and those around it. I'd like to thank you all very much for watching, and I encourage you to join us as we begin to take this tour even farther back, more than just the 4,000 or 5,000 years of Sogmatar and the surrounding hills, but back 10, 11, and even 12,000 years to the ancient sites of Karahan Tepe and Göbekli Tepe. Once again, I'd like to thank you all for watching. My name is Milo Rossi. Remember to stay curious, stay inquisitive, and as always, remember that the next discovery to change the world could be directly below your feet.
Yeah.